You've managed to reach 10K month on average, and now you're trying to get to the next level. But no matter how hard you work, no matter how many hours you put in every week, you are completely stuck. You cannot get to 15, 20, or even more, and you don't know what your next step is. Well, if this is the case, I'm going to be talking in this video about what I would do if my business was stuck at 10K, because it is a pivotal moment. Whatever you did up until now, working hard, working more, taking on more projects, it got you to 10K, but what you need to do to reach 20, 30, 50K per month, it isn't about quantity, it's going to be about working in a completely different way. Before I get into what I would do if this was my business stuck at 10K, I want to name the 2 ways that you can grow from here. To make more money, it sounds kind of simple. You either take on more projects or you take on the same number of projects, but larger projects that are going to pay you more. Whichever path you get into is going to depend on who your ideal client is, if you're even interested in getting bigger projects. So it really depends about you and what you want to do in your business. But here is what both paths have in common. To charge more and to attract premium clients, you need to deliver a better experience and you need to elevate the quality of the work that you produce. To take on more projects, you need the capacity to actually be able to handle them. And either way, you need to stop being the person inside every project and start leading the projects instead. That is going to be your shift, and that's what I'm going to cover in today's video. So what do I mean by being in the middle of everything? A lot of designers are still in the middle of every decision. They're the one sending all the emails. Your team is always waiting on you to decide every client question, every supplier follow-up, every approval. It all roots back to you. And it's fine up until 10K because you can still make 10K and be in the middle of everything. You're the business, you're the quality control, you are the reason that things get done. And this works until it doesn't anymore. And I'm going to be honest that I see this a lot with the clients, with the designers that I work with. They hire a delegation team like mine, they have subcontractors, or even they hire like a junior designer to be physically there in their studio, but they're still in the middle of every decision. They haven't trained their team to be creative partners, to make decisions, to be proactive. They're just using them as task doers, so everything always comes back to them. So the hours that they were supposed to free up to be able to take care of the business, to take on more projects, well, it doesn't exist. And if you are at this level where you're starting to get help, I really want you to think about how you're going to train this person or this team to work with you, because the way that you're going to work with them, it cannot just be extra sets of hands. You really need to think of them as thinking partners. I talk about this a lot in my videos. There are a few things that you need to put in place before you can get to the next level. As I said, whatever got you here is not going to take you there. You need to work in a completely different way. So if we start with step 1, which is to streamline your process, some of you are going to say, I already have a process. I already know exactly what I have to do at the inquiry, at the onboarding, what I have to send clients during the project, and how to do the handover. But this is where a small process is not going to be enough. There is a big difference between knowing your steps and having a system that runs without you. The first question that I would ask myself is, what am I still doing manually that a system, AI, a software could handle for me? Let's take your inquiry process. When a potential client reaches out to you, what happens? Do you send an email? Yeah, sure, you have a template. You're not writing your emails from scratch anymore. Well done, that's absolutely great. It's so much better than what I was doing when I started my business, which was to personalize every single email. You're saving a few seconds of your time, maybe a couple minutes, because you have a template. You're not rewriting everything from scratch. You don't need to think what you want to say in the email. But still, it needs you physically in front of the computer. Write the email, change the name, see if you want to add something, and then send the email. What if instead you had a tool, like a CRM tool, that answered that inquiry for you? That email doesn't need to be customized. It will be the same for everybody, unless it's something very specific and you want to take the time to answer because it's a very different project, it's a big opportunity. But otherwise, find a way to automate the things that don't necessarily need you. That inquiry just needs an answer straight away, not 3 days later. They need someone who will give them the information that they need at the moment where they're interested, not once they've contacted another 3 designers and the other designers were faster, so they completely dropped you because you took too long to answer. We can take another example, scheduling the discovery call. Is there a calendar that they can book the call and then they receive the confirmation email and then the notifications, 2 hours before the call, reminding them of the call? Or are you manually sending them an email to ask them when they want to do the call and then you have to manually send those confirmation emails to them? So ideally, before the discovery call, you shouldn't have to do anything manually. You should start to be involved once this inquiry, they're serious and they're getting to a stage where you have to do more customized stuff. But before that, it shouldn't require any of your time. And the same thing goes for onboarding. Are you manually sending the welcome packet once the invoice was paid or the contract was signed? Are you chasing documents? Are you chasing for signatures on the contract? Or does your CRM trigger the whole sequence the moment a client signs? There's a big difference there. The project phases. Do you have documented checklists for each phase that someone else could follow? Or does it all live in your head and it has to be rebuilt every single time? Tightening this process up doesn't require hiring someone, so you're not going to be having more expenses there. It just requires you to audit where your time goes and what is taking up a lot of your time that you could be better spent doing something more important. And again, here in today's world, you should use AI as much as possible to save you time. AI is going to do them much faster. So it's finding the way that AI can actually help you, on more than captions, but it can help you run your business. And I talk about this a little bit more in my AI series. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend that you go back to my channel and look at the videos. There's short tutorials, 8 short tutorials showing you the possibilities of what to do with AI when it comes to running your business. So things like prepping for a discovery call. You do not go into a discovery call just not knowing the specifics of how you're going to run the conversation. So you want to prep things like the discovery call. You want to use AI as well to brief your team faster. There's so many things that AI can do for you. They're going to save you time. They're going to save you money. They're going to provide a better client experience. So make sure you watch that series. I'm going to link it up here. Okay, so we've talked about streamlining your process. That was step 1. That's the thing this is where you start. Then you look at ways AI can be a strategic partner. It can help you run your business. That's step 2. Step 3 is then you start hiring. When the systems, the computer, it cannot help you anymore, then there are things that you will need a person for. And this is where you look at hiring for the right position, something that is going to be really valuable for where you're at in the business. So for most designers at this stage, the biggest time drain is going to be all the technical drawings that you have to do for projects. If a CAD expert can do those things for a fraction of your hourly rate, then you shouldn't be doing it yourself. Clients do not care if you can draw. Contractors don't care if you can draw, but you are the lead designer, you are the business owner, you're the one who needs to maintain this high level of communication. You need to lead the project. And so CAD documentation is the first thing that you should delegate. So bringing in a freelancer, an outsourcing team, any type of subcontractor is usually the hire that's going to unlock real capacity for you. And the keyword here is that I said subcontractor. I didn't say employee. A subcontractor is going to be a flexible system for you. It's going to remove a lot of the stress around investing money into someone else, because up to this point, maybe you're working mostly by yourself. So hiring an employee comes with a lot of overheads that feels stressful. It feels scary. Your workload is high for a couple of months and then it drops. So it's very difficult when you don't have a lot of work yet or a lot of consistent work to hire an employee, because it has a lot of costs. But with a subcontractor, it's flexible. You can test it. If it works, you keep going. But if it doesn't, you can pivot, you can adjust. If the person is not a good fit, you can stop working with them. You're not tied to them in any way. And if you still think, no, I can handle all of it by myself, just do the math. If delegating is going to free up enough time for you to take on a new project, does that cover the cost? For most people, the answer is always going to be yes. Step number 4, you're going to use the time that you freed up to work on the business, not in the business, on the business. And I even see this with a lot of designers in my 3 months program, where I teach them how to become business owners, how to become creative directors. There's so much resistance to becoming business owners because what they want to do is only work on a project. So they don't think ahead. They don't think about the business itself. They just work reactively on a day-to-day basis without thinking of what comes tomorrow. So then the project ends and they have nothing in the pipeline because they haven't even remotely thought about, okay, that project is going to end of June. Like, what happens next? And a lot of designers who sit in this 10K range, they almost rely entirely on referrals. And referrals are great. It means people were happy with you. They're recommending you to people that they know. But referrals are so unpredictable and they shouldn't be your main strategy for getting clients. You don't know what project it's going to bring. So it could be something that is not in line with the type of project you want to be doing, or you don't like the clients. You're basically dependent on whatever project comes to you. And I'm going to be honest that referrals only are not going to help you build a consistent, growing revenue because you do not have control over it. And working on the business is so important. I put my head down for so long because I didn't want to look at analytics. I didn't want to look at numbers. But then when you start understanding what's happening in your business, you're like, wow, like I've spent years posting on Instagram, but Instagram is not a platform that works because my ideal client is not on Instagram. So I've been spending so much time posting on social media and it's not even where, the people I want to work with are. So it's about looking at everything that's happening in your business and seeing how you can improve the client experience, make sure that you attract the right type of clients. So if you're aiming for a full build, like, is your client experience at this level? Like, can you actually sign premium clients? And it's looking at, okay, like, am I actually on the platforms where my ideal clients are? Am I spending a lot of time talking about a service that actually doesn't bring me any money? So if you're spending, 50% of your time talking about a service, but it's the other one that's making you money, then you have to double down on what's working, not on what's not working. But if you never work on the business, you will not see it. There's a book that I would recommend for any designer at this stage. It's a book called 10x is easier than 2x by Dan Sullivan. And the core idea is that 10xing your revenue is going to be much easier than doubling your revenue, because to double, you usually have to do more of the same. So you're more exhausted. You're just doubling the work that you're doing. But when you start looking at working a different way completely, this is where the big shift happens. Because to make a lot more money, you have to stop asking, how much can I work? But start asking, what should I stop doing entirely? And when you get yourself out of the execution of doing everything in your business and you put yourself in the director seat, a few things are going to happen and it's going to drive your growth. Your quality is going to go up because you're not rushing through everything. You're not exhausted and overworked and overwhelmed because you're trying to be in everything at the same time. And you're not rushing because you've got specific help, expert help, and you're yourself an expert in the area that you're focusing on the projects, in the business. So the work gets better, and better works attracts better clients. And this is your opportunity to increase your revenue per project instead of trying to take on more and more projects, because quality always wins over quantity. And when you freed up enough time from doing CAD drawings to focusing on your clients, the communication is going to improve. You're going to properly understand what the client wants. You're going to have time to follow up with inquiries. You're going to make these premium clients genuinely feel taken care of. And this is what running a business is all about. The reason you're stuck at 10K, it's normal because you're trying to do more of what was working. But at this point, you need to work very differently to reach that next financial goal. So the way is not to push harder, it's to change the structure completely. Streamline your process. You make sure that you're not doing everything manually. You set up a CRM to be able to automate. You're going to use AI every day as a real working tool to deliver a faster, better, and more consistent service. You're going to make the one strategic hire that is going to give you the most time back to work on your business. And you're going to spend more time analyzing What is bringing in the clients? What could be improved? What could be eliminated? How to build better relationships and how to show up at a level that attracts premium clients. If you're not sure how to set up a proper strategy around all of this, how to reverse engineer what your next goal actually looks like in terms of projects, pricing, and where to invest first, I recorded a full financial series with my first financial mentor. Her name is Miriam Faye. You can find all the episodes on my channel. They were posted last month, so it's very fresh. It's one of the first videos that you're going to find. It was 4 episodes, and I'm sure they're really going to help you understand how to put together a strategy and how to reverse engineer what it looks like in terms of mini goals and small little steps to ensure that you reach that next goal of yours. I'll see you in the next one.